Good evening. Many thanks for joining us on Nationwide today. We're live in Abuja and I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's begin with an update on coronavirus. The confirmation of the first case of coronavirus disease, otherwise known as COVID-19 in Nigeria, has led to the reconvening of the interministerial and multi-sectoral meeting on preparedness and response to the global scourge. Following the evaluation of issues revolving around Nigeria's efforts at protecting citizens from the disease, intensified flow of credible information on COVID-19 was emphasized as the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, promised to take action on VIPs resisting screening at airports as well as airlines that are not compliant with the guidelines on the screening of passengers.
Part of this national carrier project, and he said to me that, you know what, I feel safer to go to Nigeria than to come back to my home country in England. And the reason is, I was in Abuja 3 days ago. During my trip, I was handed over a form within the aircraft. I was disinfected, and I filled the form to state my travel history and to say my destination, my telephone contact number, and my state of health. And once I came down, everybody was alert, and they took my temperature, and they asked me for my yellow card vaccine. And I showed the yellow card vaccine. And I was informed, if not, I could have been given a shot for free at the airport. And also, they showed me, or I witnessed all over the walls. We've got hand sanitizers all over the walls, displayed, and we could clean our hands. And I went in and I felt safe. But when I came back to London,
Full package of that report will come in our subsequent bulletin. But we have in the studio to discuss the COVID-19 outbreak in Nigeria, a health expert and lead coordinator of 2014 Ebola outbreak response. Let's welcome Professor Abdulsalami Nasidi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, as a virologist, how would you react to the speculations that the tropical nature of Nigeria does not encourage the survival of the virus, talking about COVID-19?
It's very early to say what are the things that will affect the transmissibility of this virus, because it's a novel virus. It's still being under study, and it will be foolhardy to assume that our hot weather might limit its transmission from human to human. Nevertheless, if that happens, it's a good news for us. It's very possible because the virus is very labile, it's very sensitive to heat, but unfortunately, it is spread through droplets. So in those droplets, they survive longer. So this is the other side of the story.
Okay, so let's look at capacity and development, talking about research development in Nigeria in the wake of this COVID-19. What should we be doing at this time as a nation, aside looking at protocol treatment from China?
Well, we shouldn't be left behind. We have very capable scientists now in the field of molecular biology, virology, epidemiology. In fact, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has a program called the Field Epidemiological and Laboratory Training Program. And that program has been building capacity in the areas of public health, research, and disease prevention and control. So we have big volume of scientists now in Nigeria that can handle that aspect of the fight against the COVID-19. We also have very sound laboratories now in the country that can even sequence the virus very quickly. For instance, the Redeemers laboratory in the southwest. We have even one novel laboratory in Odi, Bayelsa State. It's a very solid laboratory of the Ministry of Science and Technology. They can easily sequence the virus and describe its characteristics and use it for anything that we want. We have about 4 or 5 such laboratories. And then finally, we also have Nigerians in diaspora. In the very sound laboratories, they can get hold of some of this, the virus that has come into Nigeria and start studying it. So there is possibility to do a lot in that area.
I know this COVID-19 is a more severe case compared to Ebola. Now, you were the lead coordinator in 2014 Ebola outbreak response team. Drawing from the experience we're able to conquer, what would you say, as Nigerians, we should put into place now if we must tackle this?
Well, we have a lot to learn from. We should not waste time. This is a time to really act. The virus is on ground. We don't know whether it's only in Lagos or other places. And even though we say this is the first case, I keep saying this is the first detected case. What we did in curbing the spread of Ebola might not be all as effective, for all this, but we can build on the knowledge and experience we have. For instance, this virus is a little bit trickier than the Ebola virus. Ebola virus, you can contact mostly through contagious means. It's either when you come into contact with the body of the patient or his dead body or any dead body that dies from Ebola, or any object that patient come into contact with. But in the case of the COVID-19 virus, it's very funny. It has all those contagiousness, also, and then it is also spread through droplet. So it has a wider route and possibility of spreading. So the method or strategy to fight it will be much tougher. And thirdly, we can now build on what we gained from the Ebola and all the facilities that were put in place, to fight these disease. And that's exactly what we are doing in Nigeria. Even the laboratory that was used to diagnose it very quickly was the one that we strengthened, during the Ebola outbreak. So that laboratory is very strong now. As you can see, within 48, 72 hours, they have identified the virus. That's very fast for any country, not only even developed country. For them to diagnose so quick is quite impressive.
I know some Nigerians are in panic. What would you advise?
This is not the time to panic. I think this is the time to know exactly what to do, and we should be following all the advice that have been issued out by the WHO, by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, all the recommendations that are coming through the Federal Ministry of Health, and also we should work with Ministry of Information, Ministry of Aviation, Ministry of Interior. These are the ministries, and Environment, Ministry of Environment, Science and Tech. These are the ministries that must come together immediately to start, hitting the nail on the head to get this outbreak controlled.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Abdulsalami Nasidi. Your input has been very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
He's the lead coordinator 2014 Ebola outbreak response. And we've been looking at COVID-19 in Nigeria. And still on that, the Kano State Ministry of Health has put in place measures to prevent the infiltration of COVID-19 into the state. This was disclosed at a meeting attended by people of vested interest. Let's hear from Hadiza Mohammed.
Being one of the densely populated area, commercial nerve center and home of the first West African International Airport, it becomes necessary for the state government to take stringent measures to prevent importation of COVID-19 into the country. It was against this background that the state government reactivated the rapid response team to ensure surveillance and create awareness among people on symptoms and precautionary measures against the deadly disease.
Identified and been trained and have been posted to that center to manage appropriately any case that is brought or that is referred to that center. And we have repositioned drugs and personal protective equipment in the center.
Kano State Government has also deployed personnel to the Aminu Kano International Airport to ensure proper screening of air travelers. The meeting advised citizens not to panic or spread unverified rumor and report any suspected case to the nearest healthcare facility. It was attended by the representatives of the state government, Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and other relevant stakeholders. From Kano, Hadiza Muhammad, NTA News.
And in Calabar, it's red alert. But to check the spread of the coronavirus disease in Nigeria, the Cross River State government is leaving nothing to chance with the enforcement of regular screening of passengers at the airport, seaport, and all the entry points into the state. Paul Abel completes the story.
For 2 weeks now, health officials have been on ground at the Margaret Ekpo International Airport, Calabar, to screen passengers on arrival, just like the airplane which just arrived from Lagos with some foreign passengers.
They've checked them, their temperature is still low. However, remember there's an incubation period of 14 days, and so we want to be able to follow up on them to be sure that they didn't come in with the COVID-19.
The Cross River State government has already put in place 2 quarantine facilities.
Surveillance notification officers were trained by the World Health Organizations on how best they can manage samples and manage suspected cases and deliver them to the isolation center.
The health team also visited the Calabar port of Nigerian Ports Authority. Though land borders are equally given attention, emphasis is placed on airports due to the speed travelers cover within a short time.
From all indications, the state government has put in place the necessary mechanism to ensure this coronavirus, COVID-19, is prevented. From the Margaret Ekpo International Airport here in Calabar, I am Paul Abel, NTA News.
Thank you, Paul. Now let's shift our attention to Edo 2020 Games. The chairman, main organizing committee for the National Sports Festival and permanent secretary, Ministry of Sports and Youth Development, Gabriel Aduda, has allayed fears that the 20th edition of the National Sports Festival will be postponed due to the record of COVID-19 in the country. The committee allayed the fears after inspecting the state's infectious disease isolation center mapped out to quarantine prospective patients with the infectious disease in Benin. Elizabeth Omoko reports that the State Deputy Governor Philip Shuaibu took the main organizing committee on the tour of the facility.
As the National Sports Festival counts down, with 11,500 athletes and 5,000 officials expected to participate, the state government is concerned with the health of Nigerians. Hence, the Edo State Infectious Disease Isolation Center, designed in the case of outbreak of coronavirus. Mr. Aduda is impressed with the preparedness of the state in all ramifications.
As you can see, it is actually far away from the main hospital. You can see that the facility itself and everything in it was built for purposes like this. So it goes to show how very ready the state is. And then we from the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports are extremely excited that all these measures have been taken into cognizance.
For the Deputy Governor, Philip Shuaibu, the state is prepared to deal with any emergency as it hosts the nation.
You have to put all mechanisms in place to make sure that their safety is guaranteed, not only for security, also for their health. And don't forget that we in Edo State, we already have measures to deal with viruses like that of coronavirus.
The National Sports Festival, tagged Edo 2020, is scheduled for March 22nd to April 1st in Benin. Elizabeth Omoko, NTA News.
Let's get update on coronavirus in Lagos as passengers screening processes and healthcare strategies have been heightened at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. We join Michael Olale live, who is standing by at the airport to give us more details. Michael, what is the scenario like over there? Okay, we seem to lost signal there to Michael, but if we definitely get that, we'll get back to Michael. Let's move on. Let's look at judiciary hearing by the Supreme Court on the application filed by the former governor of Imo State, Emeka Ihedioha of People's Democratic Party, PDP, seeking a review of its January 14th earlier judgment of the Apex Court was forestalled. This follows a request for adjournment by counsel to Ihedioha Kanu Agabi SAN to enable him respond to a motion served on him this morning while in court by the respondents. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chumuba earlier, was at the Supreme Court, and she tells us more now.
Thank you, studio. The two cases slated today at the Supreme Court could not go on, that of Imo and Zamfara states. When the case came up for hearing, counsel to Emeka Ihedioha Kanu Agabi SAN told the court that he was served with a process this morning and that he needed time to respond to that process and asked for adjournment for tomorrow, Tuesday, the 3rd of March, to enable him respond to that application. In the case of Zamfara State, it also came up for hearing. Counsel to APC, Clerk SAN, told the court that he had difficulty serving processes to the parties. The application cannot go on without service of process to those people. So the court ruled that the processes must have to be served to the parties for them to appear in court. And in the case of Emeka Ihedioha, former governor of Imo State of PDP, is actually asking the court to reverse its earlier judgment, which nullified his election and brought in Hope Uzodinma. Case of Zamfara State, the Zamfara APC is also saying that they have not committed any wrong and that the court should also look into the matter.
Many thanks, Vera. We'll definitely be updating you as the events unfold. Thank you, Vera. Now, let's rejoin Michael Olaleye, who is standing by at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport to give us an update on the screening and healthcare strategies that has been put in place there. Michael, what's the scenario like?
Thank you, Ruth. The scenario here is calm, is cool, with no apprehension. And right from this point, you can see the passengers undergoing different screening. You can see the passengers undergoing screening from this point. And prior to 2014, before the outbreak of Ebola, hardly will you see the use of thermal scanner in any of our airports in Nigeria. But the Ebola experience has actually prepared the country for the outbreak of coronavirus. Despite the fact that the Italian man who tested positive to the coronavirus actually passed through these airports, that has enabled health workers to strengthen surveillance measures. The first thing put in place is that while you're coming in, there is a thermal scanner that captures your temperature automatically, and after that you're being given a form to fill. The form enables you to fill your data into the form and get all the necessary information in case of any development. Then for those travelers coming in from China and other suspected countries, they are given more intensive checks. I have with me here Mr. Teller, is one of the port health workers at the airport here. Sir, what is the development and how have you been going about the screening?
It has been going on fine, and passengers have been cooperating, because all the airlines have been duly informed that they should give to the passengers while on board the forms to fill. And they are expected to fill the forms conveniently while they are on board. So when they are light, then they can come with the forms. Of course, the thermal scanner is there that will be checking their temperature, and as well, our officials will be looking at them physically and other attributes. And of course, the form is so explicit and so straightforward, where it is a self-explanatory form, that is a self-assessment form. You are assessed, you tell us whether you are having fever, you are having cough, you have difficulty in breathing, and be that as it may, if any one of them falls into yes category, then definitely we will be sent to the secondary screening point.
As so far, has there been any suspected case since?
Yes, there are. Some due to the travel stress, they might have a little temperature or thereabout, or some that have gone for one medical treatment abroad and they are on medication, they tend to experience some little perhaps body pains or temperature, which of course in the secondary screening point, the doctors on duty will be able to assess that, and then there will be an instant decision whether to transport them to isolation camps. So also, it is expected that every passenger that are coming should drop their forms, and sanitizer should be done regularly, cleaning of hands and everything.
Mr. Tell, I would really appreciate your contribution from this place. And let me quickly say this, Ruth. The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has given the directive to airline operators to also ensure that before passengers go into the airplane, they should be tested. And that's a bit here from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. We'll be giving you details as the development of foes. But let me quickly take you to our Lagos studio where Jennifer Igwe is waiting to give you more stories trending. And for more on coronavirus, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has reassured Nigerians that the state government will continue to collaborate with relevant stakeholders to curtail the spread of coronavirus. The governor gave the assurance while inspecting facilities at the Infectious Disease Hospital in Yaba, Lagos mainland. Nosal Sula reports.
Governor Sanwo-Olu, who inspected the Emergency Operations Center, Isolation Ward, and Biosecurity Laboratories at the Infectious Disease Hospital, described as insensitive the decision of some Nigerians to make quick money out of such a grave situation. During a brief meeting with a combined team of health officials, including those from the state and federal ministries of health, World Health Organization, the African Union, and representatives of security agencies at the isolation unit, Governor Sanwo-Olu gave an assurance that all relevant stakeholders would be engaged in the coming days to properly sensitize and galvanize action to curb the spread of the virus.
I've invited some of my fellow governors and some commissioners of health around Lagos, especially around the southwest, just so that we can explain to them where we are, what we've been doing, but more importantly to see how we can scale up right around the Federation centers like this.
The governor assured health workers at the IDH that government would do everything to support them while they put in the long hours needed to ensure that the situation is brought under control. While giving the governor an update, the Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, reported that the index patient is being monitored and currently showing steady signs of improvement. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
Away from coronavirus, amendment of existing laws and formulation of a protocol to streamline the process of shipping and clearing of charitable items are key to removing the existing bottlenecks. Key players in the industry who gave the recommendations in Lagos were also mindful of those who take advantage of import waivers on charitable items for terrorism or personal gains. Michael Olaleye reports.
The northeastern part of the country, with more than 1.9 million internally displaced persons, is grappling with humanitarian challenges. Although the federal government is strengthening capacity to ameliorate these challenges, the emergency gap is huge. Charitable items provided by non-governmental organizations are ready-made alternative, but a long list of conditions necessary for clearance of vessels and cargoes conveying these items are cumbersome. It was revealed by this forum that in the course of receiving charitable items from abroad, non-governmental organizations interface with 17 regulatory agencies.
We have to come together to make deliberate action to see that we facilitate the transmission of this cargo.
Some policies might have to be changed. Some laws might be modified to make things easier. And we definitely appreciate the president creating the humanitarian ministry because we need that.
The concern of the forum is that while easing the clearance procedures, the process must not be circumvented by desperate businessmen.
There's a need for us to ensure there's a dedicated contact point for non-profits or charitable shipping so that we know which office to go through.
To accelerate the process, the National Assembly is already expressing commitments to having a specific recommendations that could be backed up with robust legislation.
We need to look for an interim arrangement to be able to make charitable items better delivered to areas of conflict in the northeast and in the northwest.
It was jointly agreed that, aside the harmonization of procedures, the flow of financial transactions must be monitored to avoid terrorists from using specific waivers on charitable items to promote their agenda. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
And on security, in the fight against vandalism and other illegal activities causing the nation huge economic loss, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has apprehended 4 suspected vandals on Idale High C, Topo Badagry, Lagos State. Uzezi Arure tells us more.
Bags of rice, cartons of turkey, kegs of groundnut oil, and premium motor spirits (PMS) are not for sale, but recoveries from vandals and smugglers whose activities have greatly contributed to the nation's economic loss. In an attempt to smuggle 130 kegs of PMS to Cotonou, Benin Republic, these vandals were arrested in Badagry by the Marine Unit of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps.
It cannot do this again, and it cannot. You don't know what to say because for this work, it will not involve himself anymore again.
In another operation, the NSCDC Anti-Vandalism Squad intercepted 3 wooden boats on Dadi High Sea in Badagry, loaded with 71 bags of rice, 2 gallons of groundnut oil, 30 cartons of frozen foods, and 3 boat engines, which were handed over to the Nigerian Customs Service.
All the vandals around this place have to go and do some other things. We are appealing to them to change their character and work well.
The Corps appealed to well-meaning Nigerians to join hands in the mission to eradicate the activities of saboteurs. In Lagos, Uzezi Arure, NTA News.
That report ends our contribution from Lagos. Nationwide continues with Roots in Abuja after this break.
Africa is a land of opportunities. There's no better time to be and become an entrepreneur in Africa.
When I got my seed capital, it was just an idea. I didn't even have a business. There was no happy coffee.
Right now, we are employing 22 young people.
De recevoir le financement qui m'a aidé à démarrer cette activité et aider beaucoup.
Having been an entrepreneur myself, let me help to create more. That is the driving force behind the 28 Melu Foundation. No one but us will develop Africa. We need to look inward to see how we can share prosperity.
The future of Africa is in your hands.
On Tuesday Live this week, proactive measures in curtailing the first case of COVID in Nigeria.